Let's just jump right in. If you could state your name and spell it for me.
Curtis Englehart, Curtis Englehart, Director of the Mesa County Workforce Center.
What would the average day for the director of the Mesa County Workforce Center look like pre-pandemic?
A lot of meetings, do a lot of those, but really clearing the path for my staff so they can get their jobs done. We run a variety of different programs, both on the human service side and on the labor and employment side at the Workforce Center. So working with the state and working with local community leaders to ensure that workforce development is continued to be thought of on the forefront.
Imagine you're doing that a little bit differently now.
Yep. Yeah. So now it's a lot of virtual meetings. The way that I would describe it is just because our building is closed to the public, our services are still being offered and ran just through a virtual setting. So all of our programs are still running, but probably about 90% of our staff are working from home right now.
How is that transition to online been for the people that use your services?
It's still a transition, I would say. A lot of phone calls on how to access our services online. And then also just making sure through social media and marketing that our customers know that we are still open through these virtual platforms. So it's getting a little bit easier week by week, and we're gaining efficiencies, I would say, week by week. Staff are getting more comfortable with these virtual platforms and then able to assist the customers better through these virtual platforms. But I know everyone's getting pretty anxious to get back into the office.
What happened with jobs in our community? What was the effect of? Can you talk about the effect of the coronavirus and shutting down, and now and then now that we're reopening?
Yeah, so we saw our unemployment claims skyrocket, and the highest unemployment claims we've ever seen in a 1 week's time frame than we've ever seen, even much higher than what we saw during the Great Recession. They've leveled off and have started to decline a little bit, which is good, but they're still extremely high. We've seen a lot of businesses have to close and furlough or lay off employees. So it's really been sad to see as we start to go through this phase-in process. We're hoping that a lot of these employers are able to open back up and bring their staff back on. But it's been a huge economic impact locally and then obviously across the globe.
When I think of shutdowns, I think of like restaurant and service industries. Are there other industries or businesses that one might not think would be effective, but that were?
So yeah, you're right on with restaurants. So hospitality and tourism definitely were the biggest hit. We're seeing manufacturing also being hit, construction taking a little bit of a hit, and really it's across the board. Utilities, transportation to a little bit, is anything that's not really over the road transportation. And then really, again, just across the board, we're seeing layoffs in all industries.
What's been the most difficult adjustment? Let's start with your staff. How have they transitioned to working from home?
I would say the most difficult adjustment that we found is the day-to-day interaction with staff. And with customers as well, just that face-to-face interaction. I think people are feeling a little bit lonely or isolated in some instances. These, Zoom platforms and Google Hangouts are great, but it doesn't fully replace the face-to-face, the morale that's built through your team meetings and just through your day-to-day interactions. So I would say that has probably been the biggest adjustment, which originally I thought it would just be the technology piece as far as getting everybody set up and equipped to work from home. But it's definitely been that face-to-face interaction, both on the customer and the staff side.
What is I mean, I know we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 3 months from now, but what is the Workforce Center's plans for reopening or partially reopening or getting back in the office?
Yeah, so we're working through that right now, and our staff safety and our customer safety is our top priority. So right now we are installing the proper personal protective equipment at the Workforce Center. So we have masks for both staff and for customers, cloth masks. We have installed plexiglass around our lobby window. And then we've also installed plexiglass dividers in our interview rooms as well. So, and then we've hung signs up just reminding people to make sure they wear their mask, wash their hands, safe social distancing. So that's all been done or in the process of being done. From there, we'll start looking at our lobbies and how do we ensure social distancing in our lobbies and not anything that's going to be overcrowding. And then also our business center. We have a 4,400 square foot business center that is usually used for employer trainings or outreach events, hiring events, job fairs, that kind of stuff. How do we leverage that space and turn that into interview space with our customers for the short term to ensure proper social distancing? So all that's being taken into consideration. And then on top of that is how are we flexible enough with our staff who are now also homeschool teachers who have kids at home, ensuring that we're giving them the flexibility and the latitude to get their kiddos across the finish line for this school year before we start telling them to come back to work. So a lot of different variables, but we're working through it, and it seems to be changing every day, but I think we're pretty prepared for it.
How can you describe communication between the Workforce Center and the health department? I know you guys are all right there connected in the campus.
Yeah, so the Workforce Center sits on the same campus as the health department, as well as with the other divisions within Department of Human Services. So when we do our walkthroughs with our lobby and business center and reopening plan, we have the health department leadership with us, walking us through that and getting their advice and guidance on the best way to do that and best practices with it. The health department has also been doing weekly check-ins or COVID updates. So we've been sitting in on those as well, just to get the latest information and just keeping that open line of communication with the health department, which has been crucial.
How do you think, what's the future of our workforce?
So I'm very optimistic about the future of our workforce, even though this COVID pandemic has put a little bit of a curveball in it. But we have a very educated workforce. We have a very skilled workforce and a very adaptable and hardworking workforce, and especially in Mesa County. And that's been proven time over time through the booms and busts of the oil and gas to the Great Recession. We're always adaptable and resilient and always willing to learn new things. Transferable skills have been huge in Mesa County, and people are open-minded to trying new things if one industry shuts its doors and there's another opportunity elsewhere. So, and then our emerging workforce, our up-and-coming workforce, very excited about as well, and the opportunities that kids are getting now in school when it comes to career pathways and on-the-job training opportunities and work-based learnings, really showing them that there's possibilities with going to college and there's possibilities with getting a short-term training and going into the workforce, that there's a lot of different possibilities and avenues to make good money and be in meaningful employment.
What has surprised you the most during this whole pandemic? And it can be related to, your work, those that you work with, or, the broader community or at large?
Yeah, I think how close to home it's actually hit has probably been most surprising to me. I mean, if we rewind the tape to January and February when this thing was big in China and overseas, and a lot of people weren't necessarily concerned a ton about the local impact, and then all of a sudden it was here, and then we had our first case, and then I mean, just the amount of cases in Colorado that grew, it became very big very quickly, and a lot more quickly than I would have expected or anticipated.
How do you hope that this period of time will be remembered?
I hope that it would be remembered by the resilience of the workforce, as far as being able to adapt on the fly, and all of a sudden you're working remotely and trying to adapt to the technology and needs that you have to do to be successful in working remotely. Also, I would say just how the community has come together from a collaborative standpoint and is really working hand in hand, trying to come up with the best solutions for both employers and now job seekers. It's been great to see the collaboration, and there's always been great collaboration, especially in Mesa County. But I feel like it's definitely much more in focus right now, and that's because of the COVID pandemic and how we're responding to it.
Can you tell me some of the variety of programs offered at the Workforce Center?
Yeah, so the Mesa County Workforce Center is what's called a comprehensive one-stop shop model. So you can get all your needs met under one roof and not have to go from building to building, from appointment to appointment. And we really follow Maslow's hierarchy of needs to ensure that basic needs are met before we get them employed. I say all the time, the worst thing that we can do for an individual who doesn't have their basic needs met, meaning they're not sure where their next meal is going to come from, they're not sure where they're going to sleep tonight, they're worried about their child's safety with whatever daycare situation they have set up so they can go to work. They are not going to be successful in their job. They're either going to quit or they're going to get fired because they can't really focus on their job. So we really set our programs up that way to give you the right service at the right time. So we operate TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, and that's a basic cash assistance program. So they get a basic cash assistance stipend for doing some type of work activity. We have an Employment First program. So that's for our able-bodied adults without dependents, where they are also doing a work activity for their food assistance. We run the Child Care Assistance Program, or what's called CCAP, and that's where we offset the cost of child care for employed individuals as well as students, so they can afford to go to school or they can afford to work, and they know that their kids are in a licensed facility or home and being taken care of and are thriving in that situation. And then we also have our career development programs, which are WIOA Title I funding. So WIOA is Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And we specialize in what's called work-based learning. So internships, on-the-job trainings, work experiences, apprenticeships, and we also pay for occupational skills trainings to ensure that the individual becomes job ready. And then we have our employment services team, who they work directly with local employers and local job seekers to match local talent to local business. And then we have a variety of partners at our workforce center. We have Job Corps, we have the Housing Authority, we have unemployment, we have Ability Connections, we have a veteran services officer and a state veteran services team. We have our resource room, which is 28 computer stations for job search assistance. We run a GED prep program, and we also run a professional services team, which is all about assessments, assessing the job seeker to ensure the right fit for the employer.
So I can see some of those, the need for those, skyrocketing, when people aren't getting their basic needs met. But then some other ones, like I wonder about childcare assistance. Have you seen a decline in that? I mean, if people aren't working or there's less job opportunities, there's probably less demand for that specific program.
Yeah, there is right now, I'd say a lot more supply as far as childcare providers, and there is demand, which is very rare. It's usually not that way.
Hmm.
And a lot of that is because parents are home, and so their kids are home. And then there's others where they would rather not drop their kids off at a facility right now during the pandemic. So, but we are working with our childcare providers to ensure that they all stay open. So we're able to allocate additional funding to them to pay for slots, even though the kiddos aren't necessarily there. But we're doing that to ensure that the facilities in the homes are going to stay open and remain open through this pandemic, as well as be set up to successfully reopen once this pandemic subsides.
That's awesome. What about you said the WIOA program? Sounds like there's a lot of hands-on type activity there. How's that program been affected?
So that program's been affected. Just basically everything is now being done online. So it's been very difficult to obtain proper signatures for different paperwork that we need signatures for, or to get applications in a timely manner, or trying to get a hold of customers through some type of Zoom or Google Hangouts platform because they might not have that capability to do so. So again, going back to that face-to-face interaction, that's been a huge impact to the WIOA program as well.
Yeah. Um, how are you holding up and as a leader of the workforce center? I mean, that's a lot on your shoulders. I would.
Yeah, I'm holding up good. I have an incredible leadership team around me, both at a senior leadership level and then my workforce center leadership team as well. So it's great to be able to have very capable staff who can do the job and adapt very well, and that's been put on display as well through all this, which I'm very thankful for. But as leaders, we're all going to lead through different crises. And this is just one of those crises that we have to lead through or maybe get to lead through. And so how do we learn from it so that when the next crisis comes, we're able to be better leaders and better grow our workforce through it. So it's been tough. It's been a challenge. I'm getting anxious as well to get back into the office with all my staff. And that time will come, and it will be exciting when that does happen. But I wouldn't be able to do this job without the awesome staff we have at the Workforce Center.
That's great. Can you, how, I don't know, like, so do you have numbers off the top of your head, like how many open jobs there were pre-pandemic, what you have now, what you see forecasted in the pipeline, and in what industries perhaps?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, we usually were posting about 1,300 new jobs a month, which is quite a bit. Those are all local jobs, and the economy was doing very well. We saw historic lows in unemployment rates and 6-year highs in our growing labor force. And now those numbers have shrank pretty significantly. Our job orders that are coming through now are probably more in like that 500 range a month rather than that 1,300 range. The majority of those jobs are healthcare, which is great. I mean, healthcare is a recession-proof, pandemic-proof occupation, and this is proving that right now. So we're posting a bunch of nursing positions, a bunch of certified nursing assistants, primary care providers, home health aides, those kind of positions right now. There's also some jobs in transportation. We know truck driving right now, as far as over the road, getting supplies from one area to the other is extremely crucial right now. So we're posting some of those jobs as well. But we have seen quite the reduction in total jobs that are being posted. And we saw the unemployment rate grow quite a bit for the month of March, which is the latest numbers we have. Our labor force did shrink a little bit, which is unfortunate. And we think that those unemployment numbers are going to continue to increase for the next couple of months before we start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Is there anything else you want to share or you'd want people to know?
No, I don't think so. I think you did a good job asking the right questions. I mean, I would just add that I think our community will be stronger through this, and that we will get through it. And there, it might be a little bit of a new normal for a while, but we are definitely resilient, and we'll be standing stronger on the other side of this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you bet.